What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today I want to tell you about a new house that we're expecting to be coming into the Keyforge card game in the not too distant future. Now, of course, as it stands at the moment, we have got 9 houses we have seen so far. Back in Call of the Archons, and this is very much where Keyforge originated, right? Call of the Archons was where we started, this was set number 1, and we had the same 7 houses that we had in set number 2. Set number 2 being Age of Ascension. And we had Brobnar, Logos, Shadows, Sanctum, Mars, Dis, and Untamed. And that was a nice mixture of 7 houses. Then when the 3rd expansion came along, Worlds Collide, we added on the Grand Star Alliance, the race of, I suppose they were intergalactic explorers, and then the Saurian Republic, who were basically the high government dinosaurs, which makes me rather happy indeed. And then we haven't had any for a little while, in terms of new anyway. Now, we've only actually had mass mutation since then, so let's not get too bent out of shape. I think it's fair to say that we've not had a huge amount of time. But we may have a new house added in the new set. We know that the new set is going to be shown off in just a couple of days' time. And the good news is that because of the Keyforge RPG book, Secrets of the Crucible, we know of 2 new houses that are going to be potentially in the game, certainly they're in the universe, that haven't been in yet. So today we're going to have a look at the Inspired, or to give them their full name, the Adepts by Amber Inspired. Cool. And what we basically have here is a race of creatures. Now, kind of like the Grand Star Alliance, we see very, very different things going on here. So we might look at the Grand Star Alliance and we might see a number of very, very different creatures, whereas if we were to look at something like Shadows, they all look kind of similar. That's not to say they're all exactly the same, but when we look at Shadows, we generally see that the race, so to speak, is pretty uniform throughout Shadows as a whole. That is not the case when it comes to the Adept, or the Inspired, I suppose. The Inspired are made up of all different races, and what kind of ties them together is that they're almost kind of like religious fanatics, I suppose, who are obsessed with Amber. Now, being obsessed with Amber is not necessarily weird on the Crucible, but they always carry Amber, whether it's in a vial, on a necklace, on a staff, etc. And they meditate and contemplate on Amber to achieve what is referred to as completion. Now, we don't actually know what completion is, but it seems to be pretty final. There's a quote from Inca the Spider in the book, Inca being, of course, one of the characters we saw back in Call of the Archons, which says, "I distinctly heard them say, 'Oh, now it makes sense.' Then they faded into the sunset." We're also given descriptions of dissolving into sparkling dust, walking in silence following amber pebbles for years, only to follow them into clouds and never be seen again, and studying a shard with no food or rest for months, and fading into the shard's golden glow. I.e., they find Amber, they study the Amber, they contemplate on the Amber, they meditate on the Amber, and then at some point they achieve completion, which seems to be that they kind of disappear and go away and never come back. Now, they follow what is called the path, or walking the path, and essentially the first part of this is meditating on Amber, and it's a special piece of Amber, right? It is Amber that they found or gotten hold of somewhere that is very much theirs and means a lot to them. And then they want to be kind of imprinted by the Amber rather than imprint on the Amber. And then essentially, after the whole meditation thing, they go and try and achieve completion, which seems kind of weird and cool to me. It's a nice little background to them. Now, they do get together in temples, but we don't really know very much about temples, because what we do know is they can be almost anything. Sometimes it is a group of people that actually live and kind of work together. One site apparently consists of nothing more than neat piles of pebbles. Okay. One is located in a secluded grove of deadly blood drinker trees. Fair enough. Whereas the grand kiln of golden contemplation has got gilded floors and perfectly disciplined gardens. So what I'm saying is that these temples that they go to, they are very varied. So what can we actually say about them, and how might that translate into Keyforge as a card game? Well, one of the things we can say, of course, is that we shouldn't expect all of the members to look the same. We should expect something a little bit more akin to the Grand Star Alliance, in that we're going to have lots of different races. Com Officer Kirby, for instance, clearly not the same race as Special Agent Fingers, who of course is the same race as the majority of Shadows, but has ended up as part of the Grand Star Alliance. We can expect a little bit more along those lines. Now, we are also told that they tend to go for simple clothing, so I'm assuming that means we're not talking much in the way of armor here. Now, of course, if we go to Sanctum, the house that sat out Wave 3, but we're back in Wave 4, we see that Sanctum are very much... they love their armor. I'm not saying that all of them have armor, but I am saying that if you look at a whole bunch of the Sanctum creatures, armor is one of the things that they are very much known for. Well, that is very unlikely to be the case with the Inspired, because, and again, I could be wrong with this, I'm only going off what we're told in the book, but I find it difficult to believe that a group would have simple clothing, but also have lots of armor. We are also told that they tend to forego technology. Most adepts forego the use of advanced technology, and we are actually told that they use simple clothing rather than elaborate armor, and wielding weapons no more complex than a decorated staff or spear. So again, we could use the Grand Star Alliance as an example of a house that tends to have an awful lot of upgrades, and certainly of all the houses we've seen, they very much have more upgrades than anybody else. I mean, look at all the blasters they got back in Wave 3. So I don't think we're going to see that among the Adept very much, unfortunately. Not to say that we won't, but to say that it is, shall we say, slightly unlikely. So what are we likely to see? Well, we know that they covet amber. We know that they want to find that special piece of amber that they can use to achieve completion. So certainly lots of capturing or lots of stealing, I don't think would be outside the realm of possibility. Certainly, if we look, again, it's Sanctum as an example, but cards like Sir Marrow show, and there is the armor on here, of course, but we've seen that Sanctum do tend to love their capturing, so maybe that would be something going on here. Maybe we're going to have some stealing in the same vein as we've seen from Shadows, maybe. What we could see here is a very, very varied house. A house that does lots of different things to reflect the fact that it is made up of many, many different races. The one thing I do feel moderately confident saying here is we're going to have things along the lines of elusive, assault, hazardous. Elusive being the first time you are attacked each turn nothing happens. Assault is damage you deal when attacking before the battle, and hazardous being damage you deal before being attacked, when you are not starting the battle, when you're being attacked. And that's because we're told that they generally don't tend to go for violence. We are told that although they do fight, they view taking the life of a sentient as basically being something that could stop them from achieving completion, so certainly something like elusive to prevent fighting would be something that would seem in keeping with them. So I'm not expecting much armor, I'm not expecting much upgrade. I am expecting that there's going to be some kind of stealing or capturing, and there's going to be something along the lines of elusive and maybe assault or hazardous. I think it's going to be a more varied house because of the whole, well, they've made up of very varied races. But I think that's about what we can say for the time being. I'm not saying that the Inspired are going to show up in the next Keyforge set, but I'm saying that the set that was announced this time last year, the one that ended up being Worlds Collide, did introduce new houses, and it would make sense to introduce new houses, and although they could just introduce a house which is completely unheard of, I think it would be incredibly strange to introduce a completely new Keyforge house when there are two that were revealed in Secrets of the Crucible that haven't made their way into the card game yet. That's my predictions anyway. I'd like to know what you think. I'd like to know if you've read Secrets of the Crucible, and as a side note, if you haven't read that book and you have even a passing interest in Keyforge, might I suggest very, very strongly that you do get it, even if you have absolutely no interest whatsoever in playing it as an RPG. It is absolutely wonderful just to sit and have a read and learn more about Keyforge. So if you haven't read it, please do. If you have read it, tell me what you think. Tell me everything, quite frankly. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy. That's where we talk Keyforge and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun stuff. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.